Nothing is better than being MAGA. Here in Florida, let me tell you what we're doing. You see, what happened was Ron DeSantis and all the MAGA legislator here, we kicked out all of the immigrant workforce. We made it clear that they weren't welcome here and kicked them out of the state. That's right. Even some of us MAGA business owners voted to kick out our own workers, and now we cannot fill the work. Oh, but don't you worry, MAGA's on top of things, because right now our wonderful legislator is debating on loosening the child labor laws here.
And the red state of Florida, the people are the most financially distressed right now. Florida's governor and the Republicans are driving Florida into the ground. These people are struggling to pay their bill. Yes, they voted for this administration. This is a little bit of an FAFO. The governor doesn't seem to care.
Put your finger down if it took you well over a year to finally convince your family to move to Florida, and you've only been here for 2.5 months, and it's nothing like you thought it was. So now you're about to pack up to go back to Lexington, Kentucky, and your family looks at you like you're...
Vote right now?
Well, between him and her, I thought he was the better choice, but honestly, I miss my Uncle Joe. I was a nobody, and I was balling then. Now, I couldn't even tell you. I couldn't even show you $5 in my pocket.
We spoke to Trump voters here in Florida who are ticked off about the fact that the gas prices in the state have gone up by an average of about 60 cents within just a week.
I would just wish he'd keep up on his campaign promise and say he was going to put it under $3. He'd end that war so fast, but here it is, 5 years later, helping his buddy out get his more money. And then never mind charging us Americans all sorts of money for fuel that you just stole from Venezuela.
And those gas prices are getting higher because of volatile oil prices due to the war in Iran, a war that these Trump voters tell us they hope wraps up quickly.
If I could, speak to the president, I'd just encourage him to finish up this war and get us back to a safe world.
He's saying about for our safety, leave somebody alone, they won't bother you.
Hopefully this conflict over there will end, it's just unfortunate.
The overall vibe here at the gas pump amongst these Trump voters is they feel like the economy is not going well right now.
At the moment, I'm really out of work.
My hope is that it's temporary and it doesn't last for too long and oil prices come back down. That's my hope.
Nothing is better than being MAGA. Here in Florida, let me tell you what we're doing. You see, what happened was Ron DeSantis and all the MAGA legislator here, we kicked out all of the immigrant workforce. We made it clear that they weren't welcome here and kicked them out of the state. That's right. Even some of us MAGA business owners voted to kick out our own workers, and now we cannot fill the work. Oh, but don't you worry, MAGA's on top of things, because right now our wonderful legislator is debating on loosening the child labor laws here, because our genius MAGA plan is to replace the immigrant workforce with our children, our Florida children. Doesn't that make perfect sense and just sound wonderful? The policy we support is actually detrimental to us, but we pass it anyway. Now all the MAGA youth is going to be doing construction on your house. Doesn't that want to make you buy a house in Florida? It's not going to be insured, and it was built by a 10-year-old. What could go wrong?
So this past month, my boyfriend and I cut down on our water usage a great deal. We saved about 500 gallons of water. I want you to guess how much our water bill went down by, though. If you guessed just over $2, you would be correct. That is how much the taxes on stormwater and sewage and everything else that's included in your water bill have gone up, to the point where you saving 500 gallons of water makes no difference, basically. Florida has become so unaffordable. And I really haven't heard anybody talk about how expensive our utilities alone have become in Florida. We've got insurance companies pulling out of Florida because it's more likely that there are natural disasters here now than not. And that's not profitable. Having to pay people to fix their houses isn't profitable, so why be in that state? It's not like that's what insurance is for. And our salaries aren't keeping up with this, obviously, because why would they? Why would we need more money to survive? We're not even going to get into groceries and the cost of living in general in Florida. Utilities is just scratching the surface. This is one of the many reasons my boyfriend and I are moving to Lisbon in less than a year, because we just can't do it anymore. We can't take it anymore.
Hey, did you know that young people between the ages of 20 and 29 are leaving Florida in record numbers? And it's not because they don't love the sunshine. It's because they can't afford to live here anymore. Between rising rents, sky high homeowners insurance, and wages that don't keep up, they're forcing the young people out. And when they leave, Florida loses its future workforce, its innovation, and its energy.
I knew that there was a segment of MAGA who just hated, who just wanted to burn the world down, and they don't care who they hurt. In the meantime, I knew there was that section, but I really, really thought that most of MAGA just didn't get it. I really thought they just didn't understand. They didn't understand economics because it's complicated. They hadn't studied Project 2025, so they didn't know what was coming. But I really thought when he got in there and started doing the things that hurt so many people, that they would realize, and that they would, but they don't care. Y'all have been telling me this for 2 months, and I kept saying, no, we just have to explain it to them. We just have. Now, I know there are a few, and I thank you guys. You make it worth sticking with this. But over the last couple of days, I have realized that the majority of Republicans do not care how many people are hurt. And they are exactly what Palpatine said. They're the ones he was talking about when he said he could unalive someone in public and they would still vote for him. I thought they just wanted lower egg prices. I thought they were struggling in the economy and it was hard and they wanted their lives to be easier, and they listened to that. And that's why they voted for him. But they don't care. They literally don't care how many other people in this world are hurt. See, the difference is I'm willing to pay more for my eggs if it means no one in my country goes hungry tonight. I am willing to pay more for my eggs if it means everybody can have an egg. But they really don't care. And I am heartbroken that so many in my country don't care. That so many won't go love their neighbor. But I want to thank those of you who are. You're the ones keeping me going. Go love your neighbor.
Florida is learning about the significance of undocumented migration to the United States. They developed laws targeting undocumented migrants, and just like that, all the construction sites are empty.
Well. Florida homeowners nightmare. Now, I don't know if you guys have been told, but in the past 6 months, there's a couple companies that have been filing for bankruptcy. Homeowners construction companies. And the following is Planet Signature Home, Vandervalit, Modern Builders Inc., Division 3 by JP, Seminole in Lake Counties, Sunset Palms Condo Association, which has 267 units. They're also filing for bankruptcy. But why? Why? Because you have homeowners that are walking away from condo association. Back in April, many homeowners with unfinished projects, Pegasus Builders and South Florida Developer, also filed for Chapter 11, listing up to $10 million in debt and assets. You have condo homeowners who are walking away from their property. Between the assessment fees, homeowners insurance, and HOA association fees, they're done. It's cheaper to walk away. You're saying this in the past. The market is going to be impacted in a very huge way, and Florida's going to pay the price.
Florida just flushed $218 million down the toilet, and y'all didn't even get a refund. So Florida stands to lose $218 million because of alligator Alcatraz. You know, that shiny new detention center? It's going to shut down just 2 months after opening. 2 months. That's not an investment. That's just a scam with better lighting. And the irony? Conservatives swore up and down they're going to drain the swamp. Well, baby, they drained it straight into their own pockets. Because let's keep it real. What could $218 million have actually done for the state of Florida? First of all, you could pour that money into schools. Florida teachers are scraping together school supplies from Dollar Tree, while $218 million just evaporated in heat. It could have funded food banks in Florida. Florida has families that go to bed hungry. But hey, at least Florida got some type of luxury prison detention center for 60 days. That money could have went to affordable housing. People can't even afford to stay in Florida anymore. Between the rent and the property insurance, it's insane. And speaking of insurance, that's the other thing they could have done. They could have used that $218 million to actually lower that sky-high property insurance that is bankrupting the citizens of Florida. But nah, instead of strengthening communities, building sustainability, or helping citizens survive, the government literally wrote a check to nowhere. So the next time politicians talk about fiscal responsibility with you, remember this. They didn't drain the swamp. They built a luxury detention center that lined the pockets of private contractors and left public citizens to pay the bill.
Tourists are avoiding Florida like it has emotional herpes. Florida tourism is down, beach businesses are dying, and the people are somehow surprised about it. Come to Florida, where the sun burns your skin and the governor burns your identity. It's so politically toxic that even the alligators are switching parties. DeSantis is out here turning Florida into a family-friendly dictatorship. It's like North Korea with Margaritaville decor. He's out here banning books, attacking drag queens, and starting a fight with Mickey Mouse like he's the final boss of the woke Olympics. The man literally lost a fight with Disney. That's like getting beaten up by a piñata. Tourism in Florida has dropped harder than DeSantis' presidential campaign. You remember that? Blink and you missed it. It was like watching a wet sock run for office. The beach bars are empty. Even the pina coladas are asking, is it because I'm fruity? You know things are bad when even retired boomers are thinking of packing up and moving back to New Jersey.
Florida beaches are empty because racism don't pay the bills. Now, those beaches and businesses are empty in Florida, and the business owners are scratching their head. They're like, I don't understand what's happening and why this is going on. This is what happens when you build your entire platform on bigotry and fear. When you spend years attacking immigrants, the very people who visit your state, spend money in your hotels, eat at your restaurants, buy your tacky-ass beach tiles. Don't act shocked when they stop showing up. And understand, it's not just tourists who aren't coming to Florida. When you squeeze the working class like a lemon, there is no juice left for joy.
All right, so if I lived in Florida, I wouldn't be around anymore. That's because I grew up with an anti-vaccine mom who would have probably moved me to Florida to avoid the mandates in California, and I probably never would have gotten vaccinated. And if someone came into our community, which was probably going to be a community full of other unvaccinated children, we all would have gotten extremely sick, and some of us maybe would have died. And my heart is shattered right now for those children in Florida that are going to have to grow up the way that I did, not getting any childhood vaccines because their parent made these decisions for them. It is just horrific. I hope that no other states do this. I think Idaho already has, but this is just awful. I cannot bear that more children will have to grow up the way that I did.
And the red state of Florida, the people are the most financially distressed right now, but they are beaten by Texas. Florida's governor and the Republicans are driving Florida into the ground. These people are struggling to pay their bills. Yes, they voted for this administration. This is a little bit of an FAFO. The governor doesn't seem to care. Do you know that Florida is the one that forked out the money so far from the federal government for alligator Alcatraz? They are on the hook so far 100%. So just know that Florida is the number 2 state where people are struggling financially right now, only to be beaten. The number 1 state is also red, is Texas. By the way, there are 10 top states that are struggling right now. I think there are 1 that is a blue state, in the top 10. I think 2 are blue states in the top 15. Just know these red states, the poorest, are going to get it the worst. Blue collar workers, red state. I'm posting every single day about really bad economic dire circumstances for
out here on the Gulf of Mexico. Donald, how about that No Kings rally? 7 million people showed up. And guess what? Most of them, Donald, look like me, old white people. So maybe you've screwed up so bad, Donald, that you could even turn Florida blue and all the other red states. After all, you did bankrupt casinos 4 times. You know, and I read that other people struggled at that time too, but your profits were 33% less than everybody else's in the area. What's that say about your business acumen, Donald? It's not very good. And then you could screw up the White House itself physically. Knock down part of the East Wing, pay $200 million for a ballroom when everybody's struggling in this country. Boy, Donald, you really do care about everybody.
Where is MAGA when you need them? Nowhere to be found. MAGA, look. Here's a Florida farm that needs employees. You said you wanted your jobs back. Look at all these jobs. You see all these trucks that's parked over here and all these crops, vegetation and fruits that's planted in Florida, which is a red state, by the way. Do you notice there's nobody on these fields? Take a very close look. No one is on these fields. You said you wanted your jobs back. Now you got your jobs back. Now get to work. Okay? And they'll say, well, what are you saying? People should just run around and be illegal in America? No, that's not what we're saying. What we're saying is the people who had their documentations and had a chance to get their self on the right side of the law, why didn't you give them a chance instead of chasing them down, dragging them out of schools, graduations, out of their homes? Why didn't you give them a chance so they could go through the system, get documented, and work in peace?
Mr. Trump, Mr. President, help us out. It's been almost 6 months and you still ain't bringing gas prices down, Trump. Why? But promises you made, promises you're not keeping. Yes, Trump, please hear our cry. I've supported you 3 times. I voted 3 times in 3, 6, 9 years, Trump. Gas is higher now than it was when Joe Biden was in office, Mr. President.
The cost of living in Florida is absolutely ridiculous, and the pay is not matching up with it, especially for healthcare workers, specifically nurses, is who I'm referring to because that's what I know, that's what I do. And the person that a lot of my friends go to for financial advice because I'm very frugal, I'm very good at budgeting. I love budgeting, I love saving money, I love investing money, I love doing things like this. Can't do it anymore because I literally don't make money.
I knew it was going to be hard and that it wasn't going to come fast. I just wish that things would work out better. I really regret that everything is taking so long because there's so much pushback because I don't even know the reasons anymore. I don't understand why good things have to be trampled on. I don't know why good people have to be trampled on. I don't want a lot. I just want to be comfortable. I just want to not live paycheck to paycheck. I just want to be able to live and work. I work 7 days a week to not even make ends meet sometimes, and my car broke down and I have a few $1,000s worth of repairs to do on it. My son's glasses broke and I can't even take him to the eye doctor. I just want to get past the hard part. I want to get to the part where it's not just crippling. I know he's working on it. I know that it's gonna get better and that it wouldn't have been any better with anybody else. I just really needed things to start working again. They're still not.
Welcome back, family, and I appreciate for watching this far. So you realize that political slogans sounds great at a rally. Fix the border, put America first, cut the red tape. It's easy to cheer for that, but national policies aren't just words on a poster. They have real world consequences. And right now, the very voters who cheered loudest for those policies are the ones being hit by the fallout. We are seeing a real shift in mood. People who were all in on the political agenda in Florida are starting to look around and go, wait a minute, this isn't working out the way we thought it would. Let's break down what's actually happening because this isn't just about politics anymore. It's about basic math, everyday survival, and a major reality check. Florida passed some of the toughest immigration law in the country, and the goal was simple: get rid of the undocumented labor. But here's the problem no one wants to admit out loud. Florida's economy was practically built on that exact workforce. We're talking about agriculture, construction, roofing, and hospitality. These are the core engines of Florida's economy. When workers up and left the state overnight out of fear, construction sites literally went quiet. Crops were left sitting in the field. And who's hurting? The business owners, many of whom voted for these exact same laws. Now, they are facing massive labor shortage. Some lawmakers even started floating ideas like relaxing children labor laws to fill the gaps. Think about that for a second. Instead of creating a sane, workable legal immigration or visa framework, the backup plan is putting kids to work. That's not a policy success, that's a panic move. Florida used to be cheap, sunny escape. Not anymore. Rent is through the roof, gas is expensive, power bills are climbing. On top of all of that, insurance companies are pulling out of the state left and right because of climate risk and legal messes. Homeowners are getting hit with insurance bills that look like a second mortgage, or they are getting dropped entirely. People voted for lower costs and freedom, but they ended up with a record inflation and a home insurance crisis. Florida used to be the cheap, sunny escape. Not anymore. Rent is through the roof, gas is expensive, power bills are climbing. On top of that, insurance companies are pulling out of the state left and right because of climate risk and legal messes. Homeowners are getting hit with insurance bills that look like a second mortgage. People voted for lower costs and freedom, but they ended up with record inflation and a home insurance crisis. One of the biggest selling points of the America First one of the biggest selling point of the America First platform was simple: no more foreign wars, no more spending billions overseas while our own infrastructure scramble. People were tired of endless conflict, and that promise resonated with millions of voters. But look at the reality. Tensions overseas, especially around Iran and the Middle East, have escalated massively. Millions of dollars are still flowing abroad while the promise made to focus strictly on fixing things at home feels like they were being pushed back. When you vote for someone because they promise peace and a lesser focus on domestic issues, and then you watch military involvement creep back up while your local grocery bills doubles, you're going to feel misled. Voters are realizing that political promises made on a stage often doesn't match the foreign policy moves made behind closed doors. For decades, working class minority communities, Blacks and Latino families have been pointing out the systemic flaws in these policies. They've been saying, hey, these economic cuts, these harsh crackdowns, these broken safety nets, they are going to hurt regular people. Now that those exact same policies are hurting whites, working class conservative voters, those voters are suddenly looking for allies. They're reaching out, trying to organize protests, trying to make noise because now it affects their pockets and their families. But here's the cold truth. A lot of black and minority communities are looking at this and saying, where were you when this was happening to us? There's a deep sense in fatigue. Minority communities have dealt with economic instability and policy neglect for generations. Watching people only care about an issue once it's directly land on their doorstep isn't going to build a bridge overnight. It's creating a real, very awkward tension, and where the response isn't anger, it's just indifference. People are basically saying, you voted for this, you wanted this engine, and now you don't like where the car is driving. Politics isn't a team sport. You don't win just because your favorite candidate gets elected. When the victory speech ends, the policies actually get signed into laws. And these laws have a funny way of ignoring political parties, and a high insurance bill doesn't care if you're a Republican or a Democrat. Unpicked crops doesn't care who you voted for. What you're seeing in Florida is a classic case of policy catching up to reality. People thought they were voting for a quick fix, but they ended up voting for a policy that stripped away their own workforce, pushed their cost of living to the roof, and left them standing in an island. Hopefully, this serves as a wake up call, not just for Florida, but for voters everywhere. We've got to start looking past the hype, looking past the soundbite, and ask one simple question before we cast a ballot. How is this actually going to affect my daily life when the dust settles? Let me know what you guys think down in the comments. Are you seeing this happen where you live? Hit the like button, subscribe if you're new here, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.
So let's understand something. For years, we've been hearing immigrants are taking our jobs, send them back, close the borders. But now that some of these immigrants are actually being deported, suddenly we have another problem. Who is going to work in our farms? Because apparently the crops didn't get the memo. Like the tomato still needs to be picked, everything needs to be harvested, the animals need to be taken care of, and the farm doesn't stop just because you workers are getting deported. And now some farmers are sitting there looking at their farms. Okay, so where is everybody? Like, you told them to leave. What did you think was going to happen? And this is the part I find really interesting, because a lot of people supported these immigration policies because they believed immigrations were taking Americans' job. Then Americans workers should take the jobs back. And but you actually get to the farms, like then you actually get to the farms and suddenly nobody wants to do the work. And let's be honest, farming is hard. Like, it's a hard work, it takes a lot of work, and it's something physical. You're outside all the time, the sun is so hard on you, and you're bending down, lifting things, picking things, and carrying them to different places, and that is a lot of work. So when people say, well, Americans can do those jobs, then pay Americans enough to actually want to do them. Because the conversation we are having is like, you can't build an entire industry around cheap labor and then suddenly decide, actually, we don't want immigrants anymore, and expect everything to continue like nothing happened. And it doesn't work like that. And then there is another conversation that I think is really uncomfortable, which is the Black Americans, because sometimes when people talk about American agriculture and history of this country, they forget how Black people ended up working those plantations in the first place. Like, Black people weren't working those farms because they thought, oh, this is a great career opportunity. Like, they were enslaved, they were forced to work. So if anybody is sitting there thinking that because immigration workers are leaving, Black Americans are suddenly going to come running back to the farms and do all this agricultural labor, it's not going to happen. And Black people are not a replacement for your farms, and they're not going to go back and work the farms. And I know some people will say, well, nobody is asking them to be slaves. I'm not saying anyone is. I'm saying there is a very uncomfortable history here, because for hundreds of years, America made enormous amount of money from Black people's faced labor. And then after slavery ended, Black agricultural workers continued to face exploitation and discrimination. So you can't look at Black Americans today and say, well, we have labor shortage, maybe they'll do it, because it's not going to happen. But they are not going to do it because suddenly you need somebody to replace the immigrant workers that you pushed out. And honestly, this is another whole argument starts to falling apart, because if these jobs are so amazing, if these jobs are so desirable, why are farmers struggling to find people to do them? Why has American agriculture depended so heavily on immigrant workers for so long? It's because there is a demand for this labor. Farmers need workers, the food industry need workers, and when you remove a large part of the workforce, you don't magically create another workforce. You create a shortage, and then everybody feels it. The farmer feels it, the grocery store feels it, and eventually you and I are going to feel it when you're buying our fruits and everything. Like, we cannot afford anything because fewer workers can mean less production, and less production can make higher prices. So you might have a thought like you were only voting about immigration, but immigration is connected to the economy, and it's connected to food, it's connected to businesses and our everyday lives. And that is the thing I wish people would understand. You can't just look at immigrants and say they're taking our jobs without asking yourself, why does this industry depend on them? Like, what happens if they're gone? And who is actually going to replace them? Because the answer isn't automatically Black Americans, and it isn't automatically going to be the white Americans either. People have to actually want the job. And if you want Americans to do difficult farm work, then maybe the solution is to make jobs worth doing, like pay better wages, give people decent working conditions, and proper housing. Like, let humans feel like humans. And here's the fun, like, this is the funny part, because some of the people who were celebrating deportation are now complaining that their farms are struggling. And I'm sitting here thinking, like, you knew these people were working your farms, you knew they were picking your crops, like, you knew they were doing the work. So what exactly did you think was going to happen when they disappeared? Did you think like the crops were going to pick themselves? And did you think millions of Americans were suddenly going to line up and say, yes, please give me the farm job? Because let's be serious. And Black Americans are allowed to say, like, no, we're not going to do that. Like, not because Black people don't work, but because they are all, like, Black Americans have always worked, and nobody gets to look at a Black American and decide that their history makes them the backup plan for somebody else's labor shortage. You wanted the immigrants gone? Okay, then figure out your workforce, but don't look at Black people and expect them to come running back to the field. Like, we're not going backwards, and maybe that's the lesson here. If you want American workers, then value American workers and pay them well, give them good conditions to live, but don't build your entire economy around cheap labor and then start acting surprised when removing the labor created, like when removing that labor, and it creates a crisis because the workers might leave but the work doesn't, and the crops will still need to be picked, and that is why you find yourself asking, like, where did immigration go? Like, why did we build an agricultural system that couldn't function without them? Because that's the real conversations. And Black Americans, we are looking at conversation and saying, you better figure it out because Black Americans are not going back to the plantation. So thank you so much for watching this video up to this point, and I hope you consider subscribing. Don't forget to leave your thoughts in the comment section, and please don't forget to subscribe again. So bye.